Pop Culture Pastor.
So Cody, I feel like we just been hanging out all weekend
So much hanging out.
because we kind of did, and maybe it just feels like usually we have this kind of off time from each other, and I'm just feeling a little Cody overload.
That's it. I'm heading out.
I'm a head out. I'm kidding. No, we got to go hang out at a comic convention, which we like to do.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a booth for our show and podcast, Pop Culture Pastor. And we get to meet people and talk to people, and we get to hang out, of course. That's always nice.
It is.
And we get to maybe, take home a few geeky items.
Comic books were bought.
We bought all the comic books. Our wives are not pleased.
I thought I was going to get a steal of a deal on some hard to find comics, and the guy talked like he had them, and then he did not.
Oh, what comics were you thinking you were going to get?
As real?
Oh, yeah. The Batman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he didn't have them with him.
He did not, and it was tragic.
Yeah.
There were tears.
Yeah, comic book conventions are fun. I my only sadness was I couldn't find the perfect work of art to add to our wall. Every comic convention we go to, we find and make friends with one of the artists who happen to be there. Usually not one of the bigger artists. We intentionally go for some of the smaller artists and then add them to our wall here where we record of, our friends' art. And I don't know. There was some really big artists there for the size of the show.
Oh, yeah.
They'd kind of outdone themselves. And we did. Your lovely wife, Leah, brought me an autographed, the guy who worked on the Batman animated series and the movie, The Mask of the Phantasm. And so that's probably going to get added to the wall.
Yes. Evidently, that guy has been a major part of anything DC animated.
Yeah. So all in all, we had a good weekend we had some community time.
We did.
With each other and with folks out at the comic conventions, our people, I would say. And that's what life's about. The things that God has put in your heart that you like, the hobbies, what you're good at, what we base your career around. Those are the things that he's given you to put yourself out in those crowds. So that's what we do. Those are our people. That's our circle.
You're our people as well.
Yeah, because you're listening to the show, you're also our circle and our people. And if you like the show, God bless you for that. It's an interesting cup of tea. We attract specific type people. And if you're not that type of person yet, just relax. Give us a chance. Listen to us a little bit. We're an acquired taste.
I like to think that we attract those that are part of many brain trust.
Oh, you mean like, so we do have a bunch of different kind of people that listen to us, I think.
That I think that if you want wise counsel, you find someone that listens to this show.
There you go. Can we say we have the smartest listeners? Is that something we can just make a claim to? Like, dude, our listeners are smarter than Joe Rogan listeners, right?
Name it and claim it. Except, Joe, I don't think your listeners are jabronis. So that way you don't sue us.
Please don't sue us. You're not getting anything if you do, because we don't have anything to give. But yeah, anyways, good afternoon. This is Pop Culture Pastor on Fire Escape Coffee House Radio. Thank you for joining us, and stick around. So Cody, yesterday you passed on some information that would put my world, maybe our pop culture pastor world, should be in a state of mourning. Because this is sad news.
Oh.
And when you sent me this news in the way of what looks like a tweet, and it was an accident on the highway, and I'm just looking at pictures of devastation.
Oh, yeah.
Just just tons of devastation. And I really, when I saw them, I almost immediately started crying.
As one should.
A section of Interstate 30 in southwest Arkansas on August 1st was closed after a truck carrying cans of nacho cheese spilled out across all the lanes, Cody. The pictures of this are just awful.
So much cheese lost.
There's nacho cheese and cans all over the highway. They were the big ones, like the big cans that they used to get nacho cheese from. So now everyone's got those nacho cheese dispensers in the plastic, and they never work. They never get all the stuff out of the bag. It comes in a bag.
Yeah.
And they should just go back to the old-fashioned huge cans. But there's going to be a shortage of them now because they're spilled out all over an Arkansas highway. Where is this exactly? Is it still there? How do you clean that up?
And why Arkansas? That's my question.
Yeah, where was this cheese heading? I have so many questions. Like that's a lot of cans of cheese. Where were they going with this?
I like to think they're going to Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. Yeah, it was because I have questions about who uses these big cans of cheese anymore. It has to be maybe old movie theaters. I don't know. Because everybody's got the nacho machines now. Everyone has them. And by the way, they've had them for a while. When I worked at a convenience store way back in my early 20s. And we even it was the same machine they have now. Like, I love that technology has moved forward in amazing and fantastical ways. And the nacho technology has not moved an inch because the same machines they had back when I worked at the convenience store, which was like, it's this big plastic monstrosity and it has a cover on it that you remove where the nacho cheese is in a bag. And we had to put these giant weights on the bag to try and squeeze out the cheese because inevitably the machine stops working when you get about halfway through the bag. Because there's not enough downward force in gravity or weight. There's not enough weight of the cheese to get it to move through the bag once it starts being not full. And so, and they have not moved on this technology at all. Here we are 20 plus years later, and the movie theater here in town, the gas stations here in town have the same nacho machine with the same problems.
You should go on Shark Tank.
Why can't we fix this? Seriously. Why has there been no movement on this? I think it's my new mission. Pop Culture Pastor's new mission. What if we designed an amazing new nacho cheese delivery system?
Yeah, because I would think that the plastic bag also is not good for the environment. Jason Momoa and Greta would be thankful if we could fix it.
You forgot to say your friend Greta.
Well, they both are close personal friends.
All I know is if we had a real nacho cheese delivery system, then we wouldn't have to ship big old cans of nacho cheese around the country and have a disaster and tragedy like this.
That was one cheesy highway.
Oh, stop it. That was awful. This picture is hilarious and tragic all in one. That is a lot of, what are we talking about here? Hundreds
of pounds of cheese.
Just thousands of canisters of cheese littered across this highway. And even from like the aerial, what I'm assuming is a drone shot, like you can tell what it is.
I like to think it was a NASA satellite.
The NSA, the CIA, they're like, we're going to need you to focus your satellites on this highway in Arkansas. Hey guys, check this out. This nacho cheese truck just dumped all its nacho cheese out on this highway in Arkansas.
You can see it from space.
They're eating good tonight. Yeah, it was pretty impressive that even from that height, you could tell exactly what it was. Because I don't think there's anything else that's the color of that nacho cheese.
Not good.
No, not good. But I did have a tear come to my eye, all joking aside. It was sad. I was like, oh no. All that lovely, lovely processed cheese sauce.
Gone, but not forgotten.
Never. Never forgotten. I will remember you. Will you remember me?
I don't bust down Sarah McLachlan.
So, Cody, I'm about to let you in on the psyche of childhood Dave. Childhood Dave, especially during the summer. So my summer days were kind of the same. I'd go I'd be at home, but a lot of the time I went and stayed with my grandma for periods of time. And my grandma had a viewing pattern, right? So she would always wake up really early, and then sometimes like late morning, she'd probably fall asleep. She'd take a little nap. And that nap usually coincided with these shows she would watch during the morning. There was a pattern. So she'd always start off with your news show, like the Today program.
Yes.
The Today show. And then it would there would always be some other show in between it that was, could have changed over time because it was probably not a regular program of that station. It was, what do they call that? When, they use old shows and they slip them in there. I don't remember the word. Gosh, my recall is so bad.
Syndication.
Syndicated, yes. Syndicated show. There was always a syndicated show. Maybe it was a syndicated talk show, but it always changed because it was syndicated. They didn't have their own programming for that time slot. Then at 10 a.m., a little show called The Price is Right would come on.
Oh, I thought we were going to go with Days of Our Lives.
No. That was on at noon. That was later on in the pattern.
Okay.
So Price is Right. Then at 11 o'clock was Young and the Restless. Then at noon, you changed over for Little Days, as the fans called it. We called it just Days. Yeah, I'm watching Days. But this is not listen, we'll get into my Days fandom, Days of Our Lives fandom some other time. That's not what this segment's about. I want to talk about The Price is Right. Because when I was a kid, man, I wanted to be on The Price is Right. Even though I had no idea how much things cost.
I still don't.
It really bugs my wife because I'll go to Walmart and she'll send me to Walmart for one or two items and she'll say, how much was that? And be like, I don't know. She's like, what do you mean you don't know? You bought it. And I was like, yeah, I buy things all the time. I don't look at how much they cost. And maybe that makes me totally terrible American. Look at Dave in his comfort. Doesn't even look at things. How much? No, you said you needed it. So it's not like I wasn't going to buy it.
So when my wife and I first got married, I would always buy the generic version of whatever, and she would get mad at me. She's like, Cody, it only costs like $1 more or $1 or $2 more for the name brand, and the name brand's better. And I'm like, it's a hot dog bun.
Yeah, no. So there are some things where you can get away with that. Buy the Great Value brand. The generic brand, and that oftentimes they're exactly the same. Especially I've noticed that, and my wife's a pharmacist, so I didn't know this, but you can save a lot of money just getting the Great Value brand of ibuprofen, or instead of a name brand. And she says it's exactly the same thing. Why would you spend the extra money on it? But there are some things that you can't do it. Number one on that list, always and forever till the end of time: Cheerios. Do not buy the generic brand of Cheerios. Those are demon spawn, and they're disgusting and gross, and they taste nothing like the original Cheerios. Cheerios has done a good job of keeping their recipe under wraps. I don't know how they make those little tubular circles of oats, but man, do they do it well. And no generic brand has been able to capture that magic.
It's because they're cheery when they're making them.
Anyways, I loved The Price is Right, and I wanted to be on The Price is Right. And I was just a huge fan of The Price is Right. I just loved everything. Bob Barker, still one of my favorite human beings. Love Bob Barker.
I did see that this week there was a clip circulating on Twitter of Vanna White being on The Price is Right as a contestant.
What? No.
Yeah, young Vanna. And I'm like, hey, hey, you went on to do another popular game show.
Well, if you watch enough of the documentaries about these things, you'll see that these game shows are linked in a lot of ways that you weren't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of people have been on The Price is Right that you probably weren't aware of.
Yeah.
And just how that works. I watched a great documentary about the guy who kept going on Price is Right, who gamed the system. He was so good at it. And he went to The Price is Right like something like 40 times or something. But neither here nor there, but it was a good documentary. But I learned a lot about The Price is Right and how it works, the mechanics of it all. But I will say, going back to Bob Barker, that every interview I've ever seen of him, he displayed something that I think is really cool, gratitude. He was just so thankful to be able to do that job, and he truly loved it, which I think was awesome. He just really liked his job.
And really cared about the pet population.
Yeah, and counted himself lucky to be able to do all of it. And I just think, wow, that's refreshing. And because there's a lot of people in the entertainment industry, and you think, how cool would it be to be there? And they don't like it. They don't like their job.
Silly gooses.
It's the human condition. So I was a big fan of The Price is Right. I watched it a lot, especially during the summer with my grandma. And I became really a big fan of the little games they had within the game, right? Because that's what The Price is Right is. They have all these mini games inside the big game. And I became kind of obsessed with like Plinko.
Yes.
Plinko was really cool. I liked the putt-putt game where Bob Barker would always get up there and like nail the putt because Bob Barker was apparently a great golfer. And then he would like savagely make fun of the people's poor attempts at trying to hit the putt.
Well, young Dave would have watched this before Happy Gilmore comes out, and you learn that Bob Barker knows how to golf.
Yes, Bob Barker is a great golfer. I also liked the cliff climber guy.
Yes.
Yeah, you need sing. It was all about guessing prices, but depending on how close you get, the little guy would climb the cliff mountain and be like, "Olay, olay, olay, oh." That was a poor representation, but
I always just wanted to spin the giant wheel.
But it was always about the giant wheel, wasn't it?
It was.
I had an irrational thought every time I saw someone spinning the giant wheel because you could tell by the way that some people struggled at it that it had some weight to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, couldn't someone get really hurt by that? That seems dangerous. If you spun it and you like kind of lost your balance and rolled, like leaned into it, like could it hit you on the head and like do some damage?
Like you forgot to let go and you went down with it.
I'm glad to know that there was someone else that had the irrational fear of the big wheel on The Price is Right.
It was legit because I've seen even some stronger burly gentlemen look like they're giving it their all trying to spin it.
Well, sometimes I'm like, dudes, we don't have all day. This is an hour-long show, and you just spin the wheel like, it's not going to stop for about 10 minutes. That's not time effective. In those moments, you could see Bob Barker would get kind of annoyed. They're like, oh, okay, well, you spin it like that. I'll have to fill this time for the next 5 minutes until it stops,
Where is the guy in the back trying to slow it down with his hands?
Don't tell people about that. The game is rigged. But yeah, I always had this weird fear that someone was going to get hurt on The Price is Right with the big wheel. So imagine my surprise when I saw this headline in the past week. Price is Right contestant gets injured while celebrating win.
Oh, no.
A contestant this is according to Entertainment Weekly.
Most trusted name in news.
A contestant on The Price is Right dislocated his shoulder while celebrating a win during a game of Bonkers, which...
That's a new one.
It must be a new game because I'm not a fan. I don't know that one. First of all, let's stop right there. If you dislocate your shoulder while celebrating, you're my kind of people.
The big wheel would have been the spot I would have thought you would have dislocated your arm because you were trying to get it to go around several times. But
so Henry is his name. He beat the 30-second clock on this bonkers game when determining which digit in the price of a trip to Hawaii was higher or lower than the number listed, sending him into a frenzy as he excitedly jumped up and down with his arms thrown into the air. Later in the episode, host Drew Carey revealed that Henry had injured himself. He said, quote, "Let me explain what happened. Henry was celebrating and going, woo, and he dislocated his shoulder. This dude celebrated so hard, he dislocated his shoulder. And Henry's my new favorite human being."
And Henry's going to Hawaii.
Apparently he's going to Hawaii after he gets that surgery on his shoulder. Because you dislocate your shoulder celebrating. Like, listen, I think I won some games where I nearly dislocated some appendages celebrating so violently and hard. Like, can you feel that? Yeah! Like, that. I feel like that's the kind of celebration where you're like mocking the loser. And maybe that's just your punishment, is dislocating your own shoulder.
And maybe Henry was mocking The Price is Right with his celebration.
So if you're a super fan of The Price is Right, like I am, you know that since he was on the game, he had to come back for the wheel, spin the wheel.
As one does.
But this dude dislocated his shoulder. Henry dislocated his shoulder celebrating his win on the game Bonkers. So how was he going to spin the wheel? What would Price is Right do in that situation? You don't know, do you?
I don't know, unless he can have a sub come in.
He did have a sub come in. His wife came up to spin the wheel. Henry couldn't spin the wheel. He dislocated his shoulder celebrating his win. And Alice, his wife Alice, had to come up and she too continued the winning streak that Henry was on. She landed on 95 cents, which, as you
that's
know,
a big one.
Is big. And this was my favorite part about this is the host Drew Carey joked as she started cheering, "Don't hurt yourself." Don't hurt. He also had a great line because Drew Carey has good comic timing.
He does.
He's a comedian by trade. He said he won a trip to Hawaii and the ER.
Oh, Drew. Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah. Nice one.
Yeah.
But yeah, him and his wife did okay. They did well. They won some money. They won a trip.
So she did not get sucked up into the wheel.
No, she did not. But this led me down a rabbit hole. Did you know that other people have gotten injured on the show, including Drew Carey himself?
Oh, I do vaguely remember Drew Carey getting hurt.
Carey got his arm caught on a rotating device during a round of grocery game. I've heard it a million times. Grocery game. We lost a lot of good men out there. He got hurt that was his first taping of the show in 2007.
Yes.
A contestant named Judy slipped and sprained her ankle while spinning the wheel. I knew it.
Oh, Judy. I was waiting for Judy to slip while running down the aisle. Because people get so animated when their name gets called.
I know, man. I used to think, boy, if Rowdy Roddy ever called my name, I'm telling you what, that would be something. I would run faster than I knew I should run at this old age because I knew I would hurt myself. But yeah, if Rowdy Roddy's probably not alive anymore, is he?
He for sure is not calling that game show anymore. I don't know if he's amongst the living or not. My next question is, do you know anyone that's ever been on a game show, like a national level game show?
I have known a couple people. I have an acquaintance who I believe was on Price is Right. I think I knew someone that made it on Price is Right, but I'm having trouble recollecting who it was. So that tells you it's just an acquaintance, not someone I know well. But also I did know someone who made it on one of the quiz shows.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there was a lady that used to work for the mental health center, and she made it onto the wheel.
What's a Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah.
Okay.
The wheel, as the Utes call it.
Just like Days of Our Lives.
Yes.
Days, the wheel.
And she won some dinero out of that one.
Oh, very cool. Do you have a story where you almost made it? Because I've almost made it on a show. You ready for this story?
I am ready for this.
People didn't even know they were going to get this story. This is just a bonus story. So back when the Weakest Link was kind of at its peak, they're bringing it back now, by the way.
We don't need it.
But back then when it was getting real big and it was kind of riding on the coattails of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, they had this mean
Glory
British lady.
days.
Yeah, they had this mean British lady, and it was all about like, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. You know, it was a quiz show. It was based around like voting someone off the island, blah, blah, blah. But she would say some like scathing line when you missed a question. That was like the kind of the conceit of the show, was she was
snarky.
Mildly, snarky and mildly insulting. Yeah. Anyways, they had a tryout for this in Wichita. And I must have been, man, this is so far back. I must have been in my early 20s. And 600 people started off in this huge room, and you're taking written tests at first. You know, you're giving the answers, you're sliding them. The person comes and picks them up. And eventually I was in this room as it whittled down and down and down. By the way, you're in this room. We were in this room for like 8 hours all day. We're just taking these tests over and over again.
Ew.
And I finally get down to, there's about 15 to 20 of us. And we start going head to head to whittle it down more. And this time we're not writing the answers. It's not like on our own. You're in front of everybody and you're just having to answer these questions off the cuff. And I had to go to the bathroom. Like, you would not believe they didn't give us bathroom breaks. It was part of the stress and the pressure.
You jerk faces.
And I drank too much Mountain Dew that day. And it was me and another guy. And like literally, if I'd have answered this question, they were taking like 10 of them to go be on the show. I'd have been in the top 10 if I'd answered this question. And the question was, this is the only Q in the United Nations, meaning a country that started with the letter Q. And I could see it.
Qatar.
In my mind. I could find it on a map. And I could just not come up with the answer. And of course it was Qatar.
I could have gone.
You couldn't have answered all the questions to get there.
I could not have.
But I was crushed because I knew the answer. I just couldn't. It's like a lot like now when my brain doesn't work and I can't think of the name. I could see it on the map. I just couldn't come up with the name. And the guy beat me. Of course, he came up with the answer because it was like if I missed, he got a chance to answer, and that would send me packing. And that man was Brian Busby, weatherman for KMBC Channel 9 in Kansas City.
Hey, I was like, I'm friends with him on Facebook.
You're friends with Brian Busby? No way.
Yeah.
And so for years, I harbored a hatred for Brian Busby. Because he beat me.
He added me on Facebook because I liked a random post of his.
Oh, very cool. Well, I've got over it, though, mostly because that show like went kaput. I don't think those people ever got a chance to go on the show.
Oh, so I was going to say I'm friends with someone that was on a game show, but
no, I don't think Brian Busby ever appeared on Weakest Link.
That's sad.
It might be a question to ask him. Be like, hey, did you ever make it on Weakest Link, or did the show go kaput before you could make it on? Anyways, that's my story. Game shows are fun.
They are.
All right. So we often talk about studies that are done like in the scientific realm.
Yes.
And I say scientific very broadly because we talk about sociology studies, psychology. But this one comes from the biological world. This is like science,
Okay.
I would say. And this interesting study came out about plants.
Okay.
How familiar are you with plants, Danielle?
Little bit. I have a little bit of a black thumb, but that's okay.
Well,
now that our fence has blown down, everyone can see how good I am with a yard and all that. We are growing a variety of plants in our yard.
If
right
you
now.
kill a lot of plants, this may not be good news for you.
Okay.
Okay, because this study,
But I do know something about how to keep them alive. I do know that like studies have actually been done that like if you talk to your plants, they're more likely to live. For real.
the implications of let me just get into this first.
Okay.
There was a study published yesterday in Cell, which I assume is some sort of scientific publication.
Okay.
Plants that need water or recently had their stems cut produce up to roughly 35 sounds per hour. The authors of the study found. But well-hydrated and uncut plants are much quieter, making only about 1 sound per hour.
They're crying.
And their conclusion is that plants, when they feel stress, cry. And I want to be like, same. Like,
I've been crying for the last 5 years. No.
and I think what we can deduce is that plants hate you.
The plant noise around me is very loud.
There's absolutely 0% chance that the next time you ask me if you can buy a plant that I don't bring up this study.
Here's the thing. Plants are super beautiful, and I would like to be good at keeping them alive. But I am given the duty instead of keeping humans alive, of which I am doing an excellent job. I mean, everyone is still breathing. So
Number one, you said duty. Number 2, I am a child, okay?
yes.
These are the things that make me laugh.
Yes.
This is real sound, but it's ultrasonic. So they had to like bring in these special, sound receivers to be able to measure this. And so you don't hear a stressed out plant in its cries.
Thank God.
Because the sounds are ultrasonic.
Thank you, Jesus, for that one.
They're about 20 to 100 kilohertz, and that means they're so high pitched that humans can't hear them. Some animals, however, probably can. Bats, mice, and moths could potentially live in a world filled with the sounds of plants.
Interesting.
So isn't that wild? And yeah, that's kind of crazy. And somewhere M. Night Shyamalan is like, I told you.
Right.
I told you. Make fun of my movies. So these scientists at Tel Aviv University in Israel, and by the way, if you're not aware, a lot of cutting edge technology and science is being done in Israel. I don't think a lot of people know that, but a lot of the tech, a lot of the advancements are coming from Israel now. There was, last year there were all sorts of headlines about the cure for cancer that these places in Israel are working on. So this is not a surprise. Whenever something kind of groundbreaking comes out, it seems like it's coming more and more from Israel. But Lilac Hadani and her colleagues placed tobacco and tomato plants in small boxes that had microphones in them. And the microphones would pick up any of the noises made by the plants, even if the researchers couldn't hear them. And the noises were particularly obvious for plants that were stressed out by lack of water. They were not giving them water intentionally. Do scientists feel bad?
So what I want to know is like, if we have animal rights people who are against testing on animals, what about the plants' rights people? I mean, come on.
Oh, it's
people.
coming.
Where are you?
It's coming. Well, this does bring up like very interesting things if you're a Bible believer, because the garden is referred to in Genesis as
right,
and God's creation, that it's very much alive, and like the Bible has lines like the rocks cry out.
Yes.
And so you're given this idea of a creation that is very much alive.
Yes.
And so this is all really kind of stunning and interesting. And I think there's always been the people that, a lot of people would classify them as weird, but a lot of people have always kind of thought of plants, especially in this way. Like, because you said it's kind of common knowledge that there are people out there that talk to their plants.
Yes.
And say that has an effect.
Yeah.
And so now this would appear to like kind of black back that up.
Yeah.
And so it's just very interesting. Obviously plants don't have vocal cords. And so their current theory for how they make noise centers on their xylem, taking you back to biology class here. The little tubes that transport water and nutrients from their roots to their stems and leaves, Water in the xylem is held together by surface tension, and just like water sucked through a drinking straw, that's kind of how it works. So when an air bubble forms or breaks in the xylem, it might make a little popping noise, and bubble formation is more likely during drought stress, and that's kind of the foundation of the noises the plants make, because they say it's like clicking noises. And so the plants will make noise. Now that sounds more like it's like, because it's sentient and more like it because there's processes. And if you don't give the plant water, it's going to start making noise.
Right. Kind of like, well, although you would think that a plant that's growing would be making noise too, right? You would think that.
I mean, I would assume, but they said like 1 per hour is the norm for a plant. Mm-hmm. But this went up whenever. So
it's more like, that's
I need to read more about this because I need to know what was. So they measured 2 things, lack of water, but also they specifically mentioned stress. So I need to read more of this, to look for more information, because I want to know how they stressed out the plant. They were like, "You are the worst plant ever. Get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich, plant." "Oh, you can't. You don't have any hands and fingers and opposable thumbs. You're worthless." Did they like do things like that where they're just trying to fill the plant with self-doubt?
All the plants in like a 2-mile radius are probably very stressed out right now.
No, I'm just kidding. It's all part of science. It's just science. We do have a fake plant in the radio room, but it's totally fake. So it's not really alive. It's not really alive. It's like artificial intelligence. Except it doesn't have any intelligence at all. So we've been talking about these plants. They figured out, scientists did this study where they say that plants that are stressed out or thirsty make noise. They cry. They literally cry.
Yes.
Through clicks. The deeper you get into this, the more suspect it all sounds. Because what I was really curious was about, well, like, what do you mean stressed out? Like, if I talked negatively to my household plant, would it be stressed? Would it feel stressed?
I would imagine the study defines what they did.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about clipping it, like if you cut some leaves or pulled some leaves off.
Yeah, but then, like, okay, that's not stressing something out. If I'm going Jack Bauer on something from 24 and I'm like,
shoot you in
ripping
the
out
kneecaps.
fingernails, like, that's torture. That's not stress. That's torture. I'm torturing plants. Of course it's going to make noise if it's alive.
I'm telling you, where are the animal rights or the plants' rights people?
But a lot of this appears like it's just, like journalists have taken this story, because the deeper you dig into it, they're not making all the kind of claims to make it sound so sentient that the journalist stories are. So like the headline, if I can go back to the headline of this story, it was "Stressed plants cry and some animals can probably hear them." That's from Nature, like, magazine, but now it's like, this online thing. Huh. But when you get into the story, you understand it's not really crying. The plant is making clicking noises through biological functions of the plant.
No, they're crying. They're crying for sure.
Well, okay. Let me ask you this real question.
Okay.
Our human need to make the living world around us more sentient, is that a relic of the way things used to be, if you're a believer in that sort of thing, before the fall of man, where all creation was different and connected and together and alive in a way that maybe we don't understand? Because as humans, we tend to do that. There are people who have no idea about these studies who talk to their plants.
Yeah.
Is that a human thing?
Well, and just look what we've done with like technology. We've tried to make it more interactive and more human-like.
Yeah. Because we cry out for a companionship that is not just human.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think it's why we want to believe aliens exist, which they don't. Sorry to burst your bubble. There's no such thing as aliens.
Oh, do we really want to go there? Do we really?
No, we don't have enough
there?
time.
Okay.
We don't have enough time.
Next time.
Next
time we'll talk
save
about
that.
aliens and maybe the moon landing. I don't know. It could be fun.
We'll save that for Danielle's Conspiracy Corner.
I love
it. A new segment coming soon to Pop Culture Faster.
Yes, please.
I'm sure you're all very excited.
Yes,
to
you
hear,
should, as you should be.
to hear all of Danielle's thoughts about the moon landing and how it wasn't real.
You can laugh at me all you want.
And the government just walked in and we're off the air. We'll see you guys later.
Neil Armstrong is totally going to cut my arms off.
Like Neil Armstrong kind of scares me. I mean, he punched a guy. Hey everybody, Dave here. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, which is sort of our odds and ends left over from our radio show. If you want to listen to our radio show, you can tune in to KFEX. That's website is kfex931.com. We would appreciate that, and so would they. We are on every day, weekday, noon to 4, so check us out there. Also, as always, please subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. Give us a 5-star review if you're on a listening platform that allows that, and leave us a review too. Write something nice about us. Share our posts. Follow our posts on social media so you can share our posts with your friends. Tell them why you love to listen to the Pop Culture Pastor podcast. That helps us out. We want all this to happen because we want to grow the community. We go out to comic conventions so we can be around you guys and keep growing the community. And that's what we want, man. We're all about the love. And let's get out there and let's love on each other and let's have community and let's look to the culture like something different. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll be back.